Hello everyone and welcome back to the Urban Yoke Homestead. My name is Julia and this is Sam. It is spring here in South Africa, so the garden is finally coming back to life, even though we have very late rain. It hasn't rained yet and only expected for October. We're about a month late on our spring rain, but nonetheless we are still keeping things alive and going. Sort of a preempt to the new series that we'll be starting soon, so do keep an eye out for that. We'll be walking through the garden, so let's do a garden tour spring 2021 here in South Africa. You ready, Sam? Yes, good. Awesome guys, so let's start off in our little greenhouse, a tiny little greenhouse. We'll go through from one side to the other and just show you what is growing and what is struggling to grow because of the lack of rain. So let's get into it from the side, which is my left side. Well, then we've got some pansies and cherry tomatoes growing in the back, as well as a few green beans that you can see have probably just started way at the back there. And then what we started growing last season already was the Radicchio. We only have 3 of those growing, but it's mostly okay with us as we haven't tried it before, so it's a nice little sample size. And then we just have a few more flowers, so a whole bunch of pansies and tomatoes growing on this little side of our greenhouse. We did want to put peas in the back, but they have struggled to germinate due to, well, lack of rain. So we'll try again when the spring rain actually comes. In the pots we have some Tabasco peppers growing that we overwintered from last season. We'll likely move them out of the greenhouse once the rain starts, and they will flourish and give us, well, chilies again. Oh, it's gonna drop a water. So we continue to have the tomatoes going throughout, and then speckled here and there is some coriander. Both Sean and I absolutely adore coriander, especially fresh. So yay! Then we have some brassicas left over from last season, some kale and cabbage and broccoli. We just left them and let them be, but I'm sure the aphids will get hold of all of them soon enough. As you can see here on the cabbage itself. And something we've tried to grow for many years, watercress. Yay, finally got it growing, and it's just gone wild. As we move over to the other side, you can see there's some more brassica. This is mostly the broccoli, different types of broccoli that is left over, and we've just left to grow, and it creates a nice little shaded area that Lumetia, our last quail, to hide in. She absolutely loves to dig for worms and things in this like forested brassica area, and we get some leaves out of it, which is nice. Here we have some more coriander, or I suppose it's called cilantro in other parts of the world, but we just call it coriander here. And a few more brassicas and cherry tomatoes growing that actually need to be wound up. Then we have chard at varying stages, so we have some younger chard and then this older chard, as you can see. Do keep an eye out for the next video. We'll get a bit more into detail on the chard itself and the bolting that's happening in the background. Then in the last corner we have strawberries and some more pansies, as well as green beans. So yeah, dotted in between all of that is some carrot seedlings, but we'll see those when they actually come up. Alright guys, so here we have one of the cherry tomatoes, and it is desperately in need of a little bit of attention, some pruning. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to show you how we go about growing our tomatoes and what the single stem method is, which is what we use for health and just overall good quality tomato harvest. So you can see here that the tomato itself, or the tomato plant, has leaves going all the way down to the bottom, and as it goes up it's got different bushels of flowers. So what we do is we start off with the bottom leaves and we remove the bottom leaves. The reason we remove the bottom leaves is for disease purposes. You want to make sure that the stem, regardless of what method you're using, stays essentially free of leaves at the bottom, as this will help with issues such as blight and other diseases that come from the soil. And then you can see what is left are what we call suckers. So they essentially grow in the armpit, if you will, of the leaves, and those you need to pinch off, as those will create new plants. You can put them in the ground if you want to create new seedlings, but those create new branches, and those branches will then make flower bushels, or little extra flowers on the side, which will drain a lot of the energy from the plant. So as the name suggests, we want a single stem and not those extra branches or stems coming off the plant. Here we have then the flower. So the flowers you can leave, and those
The lower ones you want to take off.
Oh, alright. So here at the bottom you have the flowers. And the bottom ones, or the lower ones, you want to remove as well. Now you can see that we've got one nice single stem. It's clean at the bottom, and it's starting to grow flowers at the top, and it's got healthy leaves at the top as well. So here we leave it, and we use just a normal string to tie it around. You can use other methods and other materials. This is what we have available, and you just tie it gently around the stem to allow it to grow up. So essentially it continues to grow up, up, up until it gets to the top. So for those of you who have not been introduced, this is Lunetia. Oh, there she goes. Alright, so we're just in the outside, or the patio area as I like to refer to it, of the greenhouse. We had tarragon growing here last season. It has been a perennial for us, so we're essentially just waiting for it to come back for this season. And you're probably wondering what that cage is all about. We had catnip growing in there and it was doing well, but then the cats decided to paw it out, and so we have to replant, aka this one right here. Yeah, Luna? And then at the back we have the camphor basil that is busy coming back, and a few other plants in between. And last season we grew sweet basil here, so I put a few of those seeds in, but I'd like to see more flowers, so we've gone ahead and put zinnia and coneflower seeds in the ground here, so those should start coming up in the next little while. Yeah. Then something that I will probably always grow, and that's Greek oregano, oreganum. Luna. It's quite delicious. It's my favorite oregano, and it, you know, grows quite readily in most climates. Then in here, oh gosh, we only have one chamomile plant, one chamomile seedling, as opposed to the, I don't know, there was like 20 or 30 last season, but it's alright, we still have some left over. And if you recognize this, awesome, please leave some comments down below on growth tips. This is hops. This is a present from Charles' uncle. We have 3 of them in the garden. Very excited about growing that. Then from last season, this is the, what is it again? Blue butterfly pea. Something we love to grow, but yeah, does not like the winter, so we're hopefully going to have the hops just take over this section and create a little nice walkthrough for us. This is the thyme that we have growing. We went with pink thyme. Basically that just means it has a tiny little pink flower, and the leaves are slightly smaller than your regular garden variety thyme. Alright guys, so that is the raspberry. Behind me is the area we just looked at, the little patio to our greenhouse, and what we just saw was the raspberry. I didn't realize how far they like to travel, so just to give you an idea, it went from this little triangle all the way underneath our bench over here into the greenhouse and is growing next to some of the chard all the way back here. Which is quite funny. So yes, if you do decide to grow raspberry in your garden, make sure it has space to spread that you are happy with, and you're not just going to find it, I know, just coming up wherever. So with the triangles in between, or the pyramids really, we have different mallow plants growing. Here we have the marshmallow busy growing, and it will take a little while. They are slow growers, but eventually it will take up this whole space. Then in the next one, the next little pyramid, we have a Thornless Blackberry, which we are also growing in the third pyramid. So all 3 have a type of berry in them. And in between the 2 blackberries we have another mallow. This is the common mallow, grows a bit faster, and it has a darker flower. It's also quite gorgeous. So as I said, the last pyramid also has the blackberry in it. Then we go over to what I like to call the island in my mind. It's a mostly ornamental plant, but it also has a few things that we like to use, such as the banana. So the banana the banana actually has a dual purpose other than providing delicious fruit. It works as our sort of water recycling plant, if you will. So our grey water comes in here and the bananas help feed off of it, and the other plants around here also feed off of it and keep us nice and organic and green and sustainable. This area also houses 2 rose bushes. When we moved in, Charles been taking quite amazing care of them, so they flower regularly and they look quite fabulous. Then in between that we've planted a few other plants. Namely, we've got the sweet alyssum, and within that we have the pineapple. So we have the little pineapple growing there and a smaller one growing in between the sweet alyssum as well. It'll take a few years and will help take up this area. We have wild strawberry and the second rose bush, which we then extended the bed with a spiral, and instead of a herb spiral we went with a succulent spiral, and it's definitely doing much better than we thought it would. If you want to see the making of or the building of, I'll leave a link down in the description for you. Over in our tire beds we have some nasturtiums growing. These nasturtiums were from last season. Island. Cool. So let's get into this side. We have some more succulents growing, just a little decorative piece, so it creates a nice decorative barrier between the pathway and our front garden. Then a succulent pot Charles and I have had for probably about 5 years, which we started with plants from my grandmother's garden and have been just, yeah, coaxing it along ever since. Then over here we have the Malabar Nuts. This grows between 2 to 3 meters tall, I believe, and they make really gorgeous sort of cream colored flowers. If you are looking for something that is a little bit more tropical, like can manage a little bit of the cold, a very tiny bit of frost, that's probably a good plant for you. And something we buy pretty much everywhere we go, lime. But let's be honest, lime is way better than lemon, so let's plant more lime trees, guys. More lime trees are needed. And this beauty, which was here when we arrived and we've just helped get along a little bit, rosemary. Everyone needs rosemary in the garden. Can't do a roast without it, right? And then back here we have what we like to call fake citronella. It does not make mosquitoes go away, but it does smell very nice. It's a little succulent that we got last season and has just blossomed in this pot. I don't know its name, but honestly, if you do know its name, please let us know. It's quite gorgeous. Then in this pot we have some borage and that dying off, but we have the painter's brush. This, I believe, is native to South Africa, the Mpumalanga area. Originally, and it's the very first plant, the very first bulb in fact, that Charles and I bought together as a couple, so it will always be with us, always. Now for the last bed in the front, we start off with the lemon verbena. Yes, it looks rough, it is not made for the cold or frost, and we also had to transplant it when it was quite large, so it's been through a lot, but it is growing back. And then we move over, we've got a lot of this everything aloe growing everywhere. Honestly, if you have some kind of, very mild burn, bee sting, wasp sting, nothing beats this everything aloe. It just feels really nice and cooling. Then we have a Granny Smith apple, which we bought last season, and yeah, doing really well here. Hopefully whoever has this property after us will get a nice bit of shade and apples from it. Then last spring we put in some Asparagus Crowns, and now they're starting to grow back. They'll probably only be ready for harvesting about a year or two, but they're looking beautiful. Something I've avoided growing for most of my growing career, lavender. It's actually starting to grow on me, and yeah, I'm enjoying growing all the different varieties and getting to know this plant. We have a lemon tree. This was here when we arrived, and we've just been pruning and taking care of it as needed. Some more lavender, different variety. As you can see, the flower and leaves are quite different. Some more hops. A few decorative succulents, which we got from my father actually, and our basil in the background there that's coming back. I believe that is called High Hope basil or basil. Yeah, so if you think you get to sit around here, think again. Cats will have you know that the chairs are theirs. So here, another plant, another bulb that Charles got is the daffodil. I believe, you know, the season was quite rough, it was quite difficult, so it hasn't flowered, and it won't, I don't think it will flower, and I'm okay with that as long as we can keep it going for now. So, well, there's this little bed. We have bunch of that everything aloe, because there was nothing growing in here, and the everything aloe plus the succulent and some sweet alyssum are helping keeping this bed moist and healthy, full of microbes and microorganisms and all that fun delicious stuff that plants need, as well as soil itself. What was growing here, however, has been this arrow tree. Sorry, forgetting that for a second. So the arrow tree, which is still quite young, we had to cut it down last season because frost got it, and now we have this beautiful plant trying to come back. It's made a few extra buds, so I'm actually quite hopeful this season. If it gets big enough, then it should be able to manage the frost. But yeah, let's see how far it goes this season. Let's go over to the back garden. Here we have some more of those painter's brushes growing, the painter's brush and some kind of delicious monstery, I'm not too sure. And this bad boy, there's actually two of them, but that one is really that big. That's artichoke. We had growing with the last two seasons, which overwintered. It's doing phenomenally. I am looking forward to getting some artichokes. And then this beautiful rhubarb, we thought it completely died off between the, you know, the rodents and the cats just scratching the ground, but it came back. Very exciting. Then we have another avocado growing. This is, I believe, like a butter type avocado. It's like really, it's big and buttery, not very stringy. It's quite nice. And some other plants growing in between. Then we move over to this beauty. So this little beauty, if you can guess what it is, then definitely pause the video and let us know in the comments. But it's a king cycad. Sorry, said that wrong. King cycad. It was also here when we moved in, and we have just been doing what we can to make sure it stays healthy. Alright, so here in food chapel number 2, we have potatoes growing. Only one has come up so far and has grown quite a bit, so we'll probably address that and add a few more seed potatoes in. Food chapel number 1 has got sweet potato coming in, or will be going in, but we'll show that when it's actually growing. Food chapel number 3, we have our little carrot forest. So this is our dedicated carrot bed, even though we have pretty much carrots growing out throughout the garden at varying stages. I know some of you are going to say, oh my, why is that so densely seeded, so densely planted, and we haven't done any thinning out? We know, we're just waiting for tiny baby carrots to come through so we can have tiny baby carrots in our salads. But yeah, it's also just fun to see them growing so closely together. Then our last food chapel, our last little raised bed, we have beetroot growing. This is your average garden variety beetroot, you know, just red beetroot we got from a local nursery. So this is a lovely ornamental bed, and we have the yesterday, today and tomorrow bush busy growing. The reason it's called that, I believe, is because of the different coloration of the flowers. They change color as the days go by. Then we move over into a bit of a mishmash bed. We have some more hops growing here. This one is doing really well. In the back it's got a vine that's busy coming up, which we will actually vine up soon. And we have another tiny pineapple busy growing, and some brassica that's busy flowering in the background. Then just some random carrots. They're obviously carrot seeds that were from here, from when the carrots were here before. Right, so if you don't know these flowers, and you probably should, especially being in South Africa, these are a type of African daisy. They, you know, grow in autumn, flower close to winter, and bring a lot of color to a very grim garden, and as well as food for many of the pollinators during that time. Then we have linseed or flaxseed. So it has a number of uses depending on the seed, but you know, if you wear linen, this is what it is. This is what it looks like at first. It is these fibers that are pulled apart and then turned into linen. Alright, so here we've got our peppers. We've just got yellow and green, I think. No, I think it's yellow and red. I can't remember. Anyway, we have those peppers growing in here, and some kale that's busy flowering, some other brassicas, medicinal plants, and the rest of our peppers. I believe it's the California Wandering. Yeah. So here we have, I can't remember the name of this flower right now. Oh gosh. But this, oh, they're agapanthus at the bottom, and this one then is the common mallow that we were talking about earlier. Alright guys, so that has been the walkthrough of our garden tour for spring 2021 at our tiny cottage homestead. I hope you enjoyed it, and please look out for our next video where we'll go into more detail on chard and how to grow chard and a few other things. If you have any questions, do leave them down in the comments and we'll try to answer them. Bye for now, until the next one.